It is early autumn in Southern California. A little university town called Westwood begins to stir. The summer recess is over, and it is time for the university to open its doors for the new academic year. The school which Westwood serves is the University of California at Los Angeles, known as UCLA. It's a very young institution compared with other American universities, such as Harvard, which was founded in the time of Galileo. Despite its relative youth, UCLA has grown fast to meet the needs of a growing population. Today, it is one of America's largest universities, and it is still expanding. As a matter of fact, there is hardly room in its many buildings to accommodate the 15,000 students who come to enroll. The people of California own the university. Their taxes support and operate it, so its doors are open to all who can qualify, rich or poor. There are boys and girls from the large cities and small towns, from coastal villages, from the mountains and from the valley farmlands. Each brings his dreams, his hopes, and his ambitions. For example, take this young man, Joe Brook. He is a farmer's son, and he has come a long way to attend the university. He has looked forward to this day for a long time, and now that it is here, he is confident that he will do well. This young lady, whose name is Susan Randall, is not quite so sure of herself. She has lived all of her life in a quiet little upstate community where nothing exciting ever happened, where she knew everyone and where everything was familiar from childhood. Now she is in a strange place, surrounded by strange people, and she wonders if a small-town girl can keep up with the busy, complex world of the university. She hopes no one will detect her shyness. No, everyone is kind and helpful. Many of the students raised in large cities tend to be more sophisticated. For them, the university is not so great an adventure. Such a girl is Marion Williams. Joe Brook finds a place to live in a cooperative dormitory near the campus. He knew he'd have to share the room with another student, and naturally, he wondered what his roommate would be like. He hopes it will be someone with interests like his own. Peter Walker is his name. He comes from a big city in Northern California. He seems like a nice enough fellow, friendly, happy-go-lucky. But it's hard to tell much at first glance. You really have to live together for a while before you find out for sure. Joe's only worry is that a fun-loving roommate might interfere with study. He hopes Peter will be serious about schoolwork. Oh well, the room does need a little brightening. University life is as diversified as the interests of the students themselves. Every facet of student activity is provided for. Marion Williams finds her way very quickly to one of the many social clubs and is initiated as a member. She makes herself at home immediately. The Young Women's Christian Association maintains a dormitory at UCLA for women students. Here, Susan Randall had arranged for a room. The girls go out of their way to make the new member feel at home. For the time being, Susan would rather sit alone and watch. Gee, she thinks. Gee, they're swell. Susan had never shared a room with a stranger before, but she has taken a liking to her roommate, Lupita Gonzalez, and she knows that they will become good friends. Still, home seems very far away. Classes will start in a few days, but first, the new students familiarize themselves with the campus. Joe Brook finds his way to the horticulture grounds, anticipating the work he will do here. He has come to the university to study agriculture in its most modern and scientific development, and he must learn all that he can to make the family farm more fruitful. Citrus fruit is the crop produced at home, and UCLA is famous for its experimental work in citrus. Joe can hardly wait for classes to begin. In gay spirits, members of Marion Williams' social club introduce her to the campus, explaining the history and traditions of the various buildings. Marion has eyes only for the auditorium, where student plays are produced. In her mind, this theater is the university, and all her dreams revolve around it. For she has come to study dramatic arts. She's going to be an actress, a great actress. And these walls will enclose the scenes of her first triumphs. From here, word of her fame will spread. From this stage, she will accept the acclaim of an enthusiastic audience. It is still only a dream and must wait to be fulfilled. All students enrolled in the university are members of a self-governing union with headquarters in the Student Union building, which is operated not by the university, but by the students themselves. Susan, as a new member of the union, has read the Constitution framed by the students to govern their little world. She's anxious to see its provisions in action. A bookstore offering for sale all kinds of school supplies. The store is owned by the union and operated for the benefit of all. Susan will come here time and again in the next 4 years by her studies. A trophy room for the memorials of victories won in sports competitions with other universities. Symbols of the opportunity offered every student to participate and excel in his favorite sport. Offices for the president and members of the council, elected each year to direct the affairs of the union. Susan will have a vote in these elections. Offices for the committees which manage concerts, theatricals, athletic programs, and the many other activities established by the Constitution. Secretly, Susan hopes that she will someday be elected to serve on one of the committees. Surely among all these functions, there must be a place for her. The Constitution also provides for a newspaper on the campus, a paper edited and published by the students, for the students, containing news of the world and news of the campus. Positions as reporters, writers, and editors are open to all who are interested and competent. Students compete for the honor of working on the paper, and those who attain positions are fully responsible for efficiency. Wholesome meals are served at low cost in the cafeteria of the Student Union. Susan and her roommate Lupita form the custom of having their lunch every day in this popular gathering place. With the opening of the classes, the students gravitate to the campus in heavy streams. Those who have the use of automobiles share rides with their fellows. Some make use of the convenient public transportation. Those who live in clubs and dormitories are within walking distance. The life of the university quickens as they throng the campus in their full numbers of 15,000. New students now enter the lower division, in which they will spend 2 years mastering the broad principles of their individual studies. Joe Brooke begins his study of agriculture with the fundamentals of plant life and structure. His searching mind is keen for answers. He learns the scientific names of things long familiar to him in nature. The familiar subject of geography is re-examined to study its effects on the history of nations and peoples. This is part of Susan's major subject, sociology. Beginning students in chemistry face a formidable science, but one which offers a vast field for future opportunity. Joe's roommate, Peter Walker, has chosen chemistry as his special field. Before leading his students into serious work, the professor treats them to some surprising lecture demonstrations, at once amusing and instructive. Students in dramatic arts are generally impatient to display their acting talents, but first they must study the stage itself, from the earliest models to the present. Thus they begin to absorb the history of their art. College education is free at UCLA to legal residents of California. They pay only a small registration fee, but students have personal expenses to meet, so a great many apply for work at the University Employment Office. About half of all students hold some kind of job while attending school, earning all or part of the money they need. Joe, for example, cannot expect any financial help from his parents and must be entirely self-supporting. He applies for a night job to leave his days free for study. Placed in a service station near the campus, he quickly learns the routine of his new duties. But with his studies, his classes, and his work, he very soon finds that there are not enough hours in the day or night to do all that he wants to do. Peter gets a job as a waiter in one of the clubs. He is new to the work, but he soon catches on to the knack of handling dishes. The assistant cook is not really a cook, but a student of philosophy. Naturally, he gets into discussions far from the reality of cookery. He better hope that the head cook can be philosophical, too. Susan gets a job as a clerical worker in the student union. She is with a welfare board. Is there a student who can't find a room to rent? Another who needs daily transportation? Susan will help them. Physical education goes hand in hand with intellectual education at the university, for the mind works best in a healthy body. These classes are compulsory for all able-bodied students during their first 2 years. There is a wide variety of sports from which to choose. They receive instruction in the fine points of the game, and then are set loose to put their knowledge into practice. Archery, once a deadly art, is now a sport attractive particularly to women students. The girls take their scores very seriously. Fencing, like archery, originated in a combative art. Now it is a lesson in grace and poise. The hills and dales on the university grounds provide an excellent course for cross-country running. At UCLA, as at many state universities in America, 2 years of military instruction are compulsory for all male students. These young men may someday have to fight as hard to keep their liberty as their ancestors fought to gain it. They therefore attend classes in military strategy, tactics, and drill, with the heartfelt hope that they will never have cause to use this knowledge. Naval training is offered to those students who can satisfy its special requirements. Courses of study include navigation, tactics, ordnance, and naval engineering. The roof of the gymnasium becomes the deck of a ship or practice on the signal hoist. Absorbed in a multitude of practical as well as theoretical academic tasks, the students hardly notice the passage of time. Month blends with month, a term ends, a second term begins. With new courses, new studies, Joe advances to his first simple experimentation with plants. Marion is still engaged in her many courses required of her before she can do actual stage work. Because of the great importance of weather observing during the war, the university expanded its classes in meteorology. The students make their own observations by obtaining from the upper air measurements of pressure, temperature, and atmospheric moisture content. This data is entered on charts, which then offer forecasts of future weather. Certain courses in mathematics are necessary to Peter's study of chemistry. The instructor has had a lot of experience in making up difficult problems. Peter sometimes thinks the object of the problem is to keep him puzzled. Maybe the instructor will be helpful. Why is it he always asks you a question in return? Well, in the end, you always have to find your own answer. Chemistry is important to Joe's study of plants, and he sometimes finds himself in the same class with Peter. Peter's experiments do not always proceed as described in the textbook. Well, there are many mysteries in a chemistry laboratory. No matter how long you're there, something new is bound to come up. At times like this, it requires the instructor's knowledge to explain what has happened. And for this very purpose, an instructor is always available. Ah, yes. It always seems so simple after the explanation. Now that Marion is in her second year, she gets a chance to play a part in a student production. This is the time she has waited for and looked forward to for so long. Now she'll show what she can do. Her dreams are coming close to fulfillment. She will be on the very stage where so many great artists have performed before university audiences. Famous actors, singers, and musicians have been here. Maybe someday Marion herself will return as a celebrated actress. She has been coached very carefully to discipline her performance to the mood of the play. The teacher has been very patient. But Marion is too sure of herself to listen to coaching. The teacher explains again that her performance is out of pace with the others. Marion cannot or will not take instruction. She refuses to listen. She demands her own way, but she goes too far. To teach her a lesson, she is removed from the cast. For the first time in her life, Marion has failed to get what she wanted. She appeals to her fellow students for justification, appeals for support against the teacher. She is surprised and hurt that they don't agree with her. Suddenly, it seems she has no friends. Very well. She is not understood. She will leave the university and go where her talent will be recognized. But Marion does have friends. Her fellow members at the club, worried by her rash decision to leave UCLA, appeal to the drama teacher to reason with Marion. If he will talk to her, perhaps. Well, he agrees to try. He explains to Marion the meaning of cooperation, that only through working with other people does one grow as a person, and thereby as an artist. Problems remain to be overcome, so she must stay and go on with minor roles. It's a bitter pill, but she takes it. With each new term, the facilities of the university library become more and more important as studies demand more and more of the students' time and concentration. Conditions for research and study are ideal in the great reading rooms. Librarians, many of them student workers, are on duty at all times to assist in locating study materials. Thousands of books go in and out of the library every day. Keeping track of them is a complex, painstaking job. A request for any book or periodical is sent down into the fireproof vaults, of which there are 7 levels, housing more than 500,000 volumes. Among this collection of 500,000 titles can be found books covering every field of study in the arts, trades, and sciences, ancient or modern, descriptive or analytical. All day and far into the night, the books come and go from the vaults to the study tables under the lamps. Studies grow harder, but the training of the body still goes side by side with the training of the mind. Football, team against team, school against school, students and their supporters cheering on the blue and gold of UCLA, and many a memorable exploit to be preserved in the annals of the university. Baseball, a typically American game, is traditionally popular. Like football, it demands the utmost effort of the individual player, speed, stamina, and the finest of timing. The graceful and difficult art of gymnastics has a small but loyal following. The oldest of sports are those of track and field. Running, throwing, and jumping are classic competitions. Athletes from UCLA have represented the United States in these events at the Olympic Games. The temperate climate of Southern California makes outdoor swimming possible all the year round. The divers are never satisfied in their pursuit of perfection. And speaking of doing things well, Peter takes great pride in being an efficient and obliging waiter. In his second year of college, he continues with his job at the social club. He's already looking forward to graduation when he become a well-paid chemist. But meanwhile, he's a waiter, so he might as well be a good one. His happy personality wins him many friends. Peter never lacks for invitations to social affairs and is often in a hurry to be through with his work. His friends are always willing to let him off a little earlier. He's in particular haste on the evenings when there is a dance right there at the social club. Peter has an invitation, of course, and it only takes a minute for the transformation from the jacket of a waiter to that of a guest. A moment to adjust the suit, straighten the tie, touch up the hair, and then it is only a few steps from the back door to the front door. Peter, as usual, doesn't lose any time in enjoying himself. Booths appear for the election of student body officers. The tradition of free elections is a treasured one, but there are always some who do not appreciate its importance. Joe is one who has no time for such things, no time for voting, and no time for fun or relaxation. Joe has come to live in a very narrow world. Its confines are study by day and work by night. Even at the station, when business is slow, he buries himself in his books, loses all sense of time and place. He must even be reminded of the closing hour. Only at the end of a long, long day does he realize how tired he is. But he doesn't care. Examinations are coming. He will make a perfect record. It will be the reward for all his hard work. He's the last to go to bed at night and the first to rise in the morning. Sometimes he hardly got any sleep at all. Even on examination day, he is up early to make a last-minute review before facing his first oral examination. Then comes the written tests, the summary of a year's work to go down on paper. Some approach the trial with dread, others with anticipation and a pleasurable sense of competition. They must now match wits with the professor and seek the hidden meaning of questions. And then the trial by examination is over. Joe received the report of his grades. Happily, he hurries to tell Peter the news. He has made a perfect record. But the price of perfection is high. After all, the body is only a mechanism. It can stand a great deal of wear, but it can run down or wear out. The university physician has seen many other cases like Joe Brook, many of them. Students who ask more of body and nerves than they have to give. Students who drain their physical strength and do nothing to replenish it. Yes, a typical case. Too much study, too much work, no time for relaxation, no interest in other people. Joe understands his books and nothing else. The doctor explains that the body and mind need rest, especially when ambition is the spur to overwork. But Joe, well, Joe doesn't understand the idea of relaxation. He wants to go on with his work. And something will have to be done about it. The physician goes out of his way to help Joe arrange an easier schedule. He finds a job for him at the desk in the health center. Here, Joe will be under observation. The case is not yet closed. Another year, another registration time. For Joe and Peter, Susan and Marion, the third year of the university lies ahead. Their work will now become more specialized, more detailed, more difficult. Last year's textbooks are taken down from the shelf to be turned in at the student bookstore. It's like saying goodbye to old friends. Joe wonders what knowledge his new books will contain. He is as eager as ever for classes to start. His new job at the health center gives him more time for himself. The doctor intended him to use the time for recreation. Characteristically, he uses it to conduct some experiments. He makes soil tests to try out his original ideas. Again, instead of relaxation, work and more work. Susan goes on with her study of sociology, tracing the progress of human society. Marion moves into a deeper study of the characters in classic drama, figures from Shakespeare's plays, the tragic Hamlet, and the ill-fated Lady Macbeth. A professor of psychology guides the probing into their underlying motivations. As the students delve deeper into their subjects, rare books and manuscripts become treasure troves of information. The volumes themselves are too valuable for circulation, but they are made available for study through the technique of microfilming. The cactus garden of the university, with its typical California desert plants, is a favorite spot where art students study, sketch, and paint. Besides the fine arts, there is commercial art, the designing of wearing apparel to prepare students for positions in the textile industry, industrial art, traditional and modern side by side, poster design for the very special art of advertising. Competition among advertisers has led to higher standards of commercial art. And finally, ceramics, the designing of beautiful dishes and pottery. Susan's roommate, Lupita, majoring in music, has shown promise as a pianist. Out of the bitter disappointment of the previous year, Marion has learned a lesson. She has not given up her ambition to be an actress, but she knows now that she will have to work hard to attain it. She finds a new satisfaction in a job well done. Peter's new program takes him into the subject of atomic energy. Through a Geiger counter, they peer across the threshold of the known into the realm of the atom. But Joe hasn't changed a bit. As before, whenever he isn't working, he's studying. He still takes no interest in outside activities or in the people around him. The doctor decides to try an experiment, not with scientific instruments, but with America's most popular game, basketball. The UCLA team is playing a traditional rival tonight. Tension runs high. It is more than just another game. This one is for the championship. Joe begins to feel the excitement. In spirit, he joins the players in the game. Oh, the opposition ties the score. Come on, fellas, we're rooting for you. You've got to win, you can't lose. The winning goal, a triumph for UCLA. The doctor's experiment is a success. The next day, Joe meets the star of the game in the cafeteria and finds himself congratulating the player. He is doing something he has never done before, become interested in other people. From his position behind the reception desk in the health center, Joe has an opportunity to observe some of the little-known aspects of student life. His newly aroused interest in his fellows has opened Joe's eyes to their problems. For example, Lupita has not been well for some time. She has been under examination, and today she is to hear the doctor's report. It is an anxious time for Susan, too, for she has become very fond of her roommate. The diagnosis is a shock to Lupita. A nerve disease has affected her arm, and without immediate specialized treatment, the arm may be permanently damaged. She will have to set her studies aside for at least a year. A whole year. A whole year away from her studies and her piano. And where would the money for treatment come from? Joe could not help overhearing. Money is a familiar problem to him. It is a short step from an interest in people to an interest in helping them. Surely something can be done. Something must be done. Joe and Susan join forces to seek help. They have worked out a plan when they call on the editor of the college paper. It's a simple plan. Why not raise money for Lupita by having a big dance and entertainment? Will the paper help with publicity? Of course it will. Volunteers appear to help Joe and Susan. Tickets for the dance sell quickly. When it was over, they had their reward. The work had been successful far beyond their greatest hopes. $500 was a good start toward paying Lupita's expenses. And Joe has made another penny. During the last year of college life, a touch of sadness often intrudes on a student's thoughts. He will soon be leaving the university. Peter feels a strange sense of loss, as of something missed and gone by. He doesn't quite know what it is. The more he thinks about it, the more Peter realizes how much of value he has received from his university life, from his friends, his work, and his study. Now that graduation is coming, he is not sure he wants to leave the campus. Perhaps there is even more to be had than he has had. He considers the graduate division, which offers advanced courses with emphasis on research, leading to higher degrees. Experimentation is the keynote of graduate studies. For example, how long and how far does sound travel underwater? Special mechanism measures the rate at which sound dies away. What is the origin of differences between species? Differences in color pattern, for example. A study of genetics seeks the answer by observing the hereditary behavior of many generations of tropical fish. As a possible basis for dietary studies in human beings, the growth of the rat is carefully rechecked in the light of modern knowledge of vitamins and proteins, including a measurement of the amount of exercise the animal will take voluntarily on various diets. The Department of Psychology is concerned with the rat, too, trying to establish reasons for his behavior and to check theories of human behavior. Here, for instance, the animal is presented with two alternate paths to food, a short one and a long one. At first, the rat does not perceive the difference and goes around the long way, but he soon learns that the other path is shorter. The prospect of a quick reward has stimulated him to learn fast. But when the food reward is placed at a greater distance, the animal does not learn to choose so well. Obviously, an immediate reward produces better learning than a remote reward. This observation is also applicable to humans. The fight against the dreaded disease of cancer is carried forward on another front at UCLA. The growth and effects of malignant tumors are studied in laboratory experiments with animals as subjects. Progress is being made. The study of prosthetics for the creation of artificial limbs to help maimed men become agile again. Through the use of motion pictures, the exact movements of hands and arms can be recorded on film and then carefully studied. Theories of design are tested on a mechanical model of a human limb. Research into disease bacteria goes on continually with a tireless search for better germicides to kill bacteria. In one procedure, heart tissues are taken from a chick embryo and used to evaluate various germicides. It is not sufficient merely to test the effect of the germicide on bacteria. Its effect on living tissues must also be determined. For it must be made certain that the germicide under consideration can kill bacteria without harmful effects on living cells. Permanent records of all experiments are made on film for future study and reference. Thinking of the graduate division brings Peter to a realization of the deeper significance of research, the benefit it achieves for mankind. He wonders if his efforts might not add something, even a little, to the whole. Yes, he will return after graduation and enter graduate studies. At last, commencement day. It is both an end and a beginning. For most of the students, the end of formal guided education and the beginning of a new life. Hence it is called commencement day, proudly to be witnessed by friends and relatives from far and near. It is with mixed emotions that the students approach this most solemn of academic ceremonies. They are leaving behind the familiar, well-loved scenes of the campus. They will become separated from friends and acquaintances as they pursue different paths into the future. In sending another class out into the world, Dr. Sproul, the president of the university, speaks out of the richness of his own experience, commending to them their duty to carry on the spirit of good citizenship, which the university has instilled in them. And words of kindly wisdom from the provost, Dr. Dykstra, reminding the graduates of what the university has tried to give them. A view of the past, present, and future of their world. Insight and the ability to analyze. If the university has succeeded in this, they will always have a guide toward a course of action. As the cherished diplomas are bestowed, the graduates move the tassels of their caps from the left side to the right side, the traditional symbol of having received the bachelor degree. Higher degrees are conferred upon candidates from the graduate division. Master of Arts, Master of Sciences, Doctor of Philosophy. Well, the ceremonies are over. There's a sense of completion in our young friends. The hard work, the heartaches, the fun, and all the warm companionships of the past 4 years are suddenly a thing of the past. Now it remains only to say goodbye, wish one another well, and promise to keep in touch. Oh, they mean to keep their promises not to lose track of each other. But, well, who knows when they will meet again? They must go their separate ways. A new and greater adventure of life itself is waiting.